Hi there, Mike Robinson with BlackHawk Paramotor USA for yet another tips and tricks video. Today I'm here with Luis Herrera. He's the head of our shop engine building department, and he is going to demonstrate how to assemble a quad properly. The very first thing to do is to lay out all of the components and get all your tools and everything together. That's what we're going to do next. Okay, so we have the box. We've cut the tape on the box, but it's packaged exactly like you will receive it. So now we're going to open the box and we're going to lay the parts out. And then we're going to show you what tools you'll need. There's not very many, but you need to make sure you have these tools. On the foam wrap pieces, be sure that you cut the tape very carefully so as not to scratch your pretty quad. Obviously, it's best to have a nice mat, carpet, somewhere in your garage or your patio to lay everything out. This is how we lay it out prior to assembly. You have the front steering head, two front axles, main frame front, main frame rear, verticals. This component here is where your hang points go so you can adjust your CG. And this is attaches to the front. One thing I will point out, make sure that your hang points are installed or at least slid on the bar early. You don't want to put the machine together and then have to take it back apart to put these on. A little tip, I always use electrical tape. It secures it and keeps it from scratching that pretty metallic paint job. These are the tools that you're going to need to assemble your quad. Many of these tools will also work for other components or other parts of your paramotor. The rubber hammer is a tool that you use for your cages, frames, anything. So get a good quality rubber hammer. This 1/2-inch drive ratchet, and it doesn't need to be 1/2-inch drive, is for the axle nuts. It's 15/16. 3/4 wrench, an 11mm wrench, a 10mm wrench, and your subsequently properly sized Allen heads. Next we have a 19mm and a 13/16. These are all the tools that you need to properly assemble your quad. One thing I will point out now is make sure that when you tighten the bolts that hold the quad together, do not tighten them any more than you can slightly move them with your fingers. The strength of the quad is based on shear, not compression. And I'll address this again later to make sure that you don't tighten these nuts too much. They are lock nuts, by the way, nylon lock nuts. This is your hardware kit. It will come complete. There's quite a bit of hardware in here, but don't let it be too daunting. It's really self-explanatory. There are 3 different sizes of bolts for the quad mainframe and the other components used to assemble the quad. You're using nylon lock nuts on all of them. As long as there's 2 threads through the nylon, you've got the proper length bolt. So if it's a little bit short, look for the next longer bolt. Again, we will explain which bolts to use to make it easy. Check to make sure that you have the 4 correct wheels and tires that you ordered. This in my hand is our smaller diameter. It has a nice wide profile and obviously a nice shiny finish. This is a very popular wheel used on the quads, but we have 3 other sizes available as well. The seat itself will come with the cover on it, so you don't need to worry about the seat cover or attaching the seat cover. The axles with the grip tape are the fronts. The axles without the grip tape are the rear. Don't forget, you may need to have a Dremel tool or some sandpaper to smooth some things off if necessary so that it all fits well. Don't force anything together. We also use dish soap that you can apply to the frame components where they slide together. It does ease the installation for sure. These aluminum rails here go underneath the seat and attach the seat to the quad. Safety straps, these go around the carabiner, underneath the bar, and back onto the carabiner. Obviously, these are your carabiners. Don't forget those. Line guides. Line guides are packaged with the bolt. You attach them to the holes that are pre-drilled on the sides of your cage. Whether you have a Rhino cage, XXLT, doesn't matter. The hole will be there, and you can attach your line guides. Last but not least is our famous A-Assist. As many of you know, these pull your glider up for you, allowing you to concentrate on where your glider is and on proper throttle control. Next is the seat belt. This is your BlackHawk seat belt. Okay, the first thing to do, or the first thing that Luis is going to do, is assemble the main frame. Be sure you use your soap at the joints. Okay, this is slid together nicely. The next thing he'll do is he'll put in the 2 bolts in the holes. Do not tighten them. Simply put them in and get the nuts started. Here Luis is separating all the hardware so it's easy to grab the proper components or the proper parts that you need, and it makes assembly much faster and easier as well. There's 3 different sizes of these 6mm bolts. They're sized in accordance to the diameter of the metal. The main frame is 1 1/8. The hang points and the rest of the frame are 1 inch. The next thing you'll find are these black bumpers. They go in the very top of the quad, and basically as you steer your quad, they keep the steering head from hitting here and creating a metal to metal contact, thus scratching or denting of the metal. Don't put any Loctite or anything on them, just screw them in nice and tight. And again, this is something you want to check every now and then to make sure that they are tight. Okay, so the main frame was the very first component, and here it is. It's all together. Again, the bolts are not tightened, the nuts are just on them. Luis is now going to start from the rear and work his way to the front. Again, Luis is going to start off from the back, and he's going to utilize his rubber hammer. Don't force things to fit. Sometimes it helps with 2 people, but honestly, 1 person can put this quad together. Heidi can put these things together in 45 minutes. Amazing. This part can be the hardest part because you're joining 3 pieces of tubing together for its final point of installation. Luis here just used some soap, and that does aid in the installation. Okay. The next thing you're going to do is take the longer bolts, because this is 1 1/8 tubing. And again, just slide the bolt in, the front and the rear, and put the nut on lightly. You can always use your rubber hammer to adjust the hole. Again, don't force anything. The holes are roughly 1/4 inch. So if you need to clean anything up, go ahead and use a 1/4 inch drill bit to do so. What Luis is doing now is putting the other side of the very same components together on the quad and putting the nuts on lightly. You know, one thing I like about installing or building your own quad is that you know every component of your quad. Therefore, if there's ever any issue or what have you, you know what's wrong and how to fix it. Okay. a simple 1/4 inch bit on a drill and chase through the holes and the bolt will fit easily. The next piece to install will be the steering head. Prior to actually installing the steering head itself, Luis is going to demonstrate on how to put the axles on properly. Luis, I noticed that there's 2 different lengths here. That there's a shorter stubby part before you get to the drilled hole, and then this one has a longer one. Which is the proper way to put it on?
Alright, Mike, well, the best way to find out which one it goes where, you can see this, where the tires goes. See, if you put this one on it,
it won't fit, it's not even close. Gotcha.
Okay, so you stick it around, and it goes right there. If this is not going into it right, what you gotta do is pick up the drill bit of 1/4 inch, and open up, and that'll fit just perfect.
Great, that's great. So now we can put this other side on and install the steering head.
That's right.
Now it'll start to look like a quad. Yeah, that fits nice. Remember, the bracketry faces the front. The gold quick release clips are what's used here. That way you can slide the axles off easily to fit in your vehicle, trailer, back of your pickup truck, etc. Okay, let's install the steering head. Okay, just line up the steering, and you might have to tap it into place to line up for the bolt. It should drop right in. Be sure you don't take the bolt all the way down because the nut won't fit. That's good. We've designed this so that the bolt is long and the nut cannot come off. So make sure that you don't drive this bolt all the way down until you get this started. Okay, Luis? I do want you to tighten this down now. It's something that's kind of obscured, and I don't want you to fly around without the nut tight. Snug, not tight, snug. Again, just lightly snug it. Don't tighten it down, because then your steering won't work properly. Very good steering action. You notice how the bumpers work? They work as stops, and they also allow you to use a rubber contact instead of metal to metal and chip or scratch up your quad. All right, Luis, what's next?
I'm gonna put some tires on.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, to install the tire properly, I'm assuming, Luis, that you make sure that the air valve is to the outside.
That's right.
When you tighten this nut, you want to hold the quad up and spin the wheel and just snug the nut where the wheel is not wobbly, but it's not tight and there's not restriction on the bearings. He's going to loosen it up just a little bit right now. There's just a little bit of restriction. Perfect. Excellent. I'll tighten that one, Luis, and why don't you get started on the rear. Okay, remember, it's always easier to install these components prior to putting them on the quad. Now we come back to our quick releases. These are a little different. These have to be installed from the bottom up. The reason why? The cage fits over it, and this part of the quick release will get in the way. So bottom up. One thing that I'll point out on the quad is that we use a swept rear axle. The axle frame itself is swept to the rear, and then this chromoly axle housing is turned back forward to keep your wheels nice and level. The reason for the swept axle, like the front end, it absorbs bumps. The difference is amazing. The other thing is that with the axle swept to the rear, it keeps you from turtling. The next thing to do is install the rear crossbar. This is by your left and right shoulder blade as you're sitting in the quad. Notice that they are angled, the collars are angled. They're either angled up or they're angled down. Due to the configuration of the quad being wider here and narrower up here, you're going to want these angled up. So I'm going to pass this over to Luis and we'll install the collars and install this. We don't know exactly what height it is until we mount the cage, or you mount your engine and cage. So we will leave it loose. You might consider taping it with electrical tape, leaving it loose. The electrical tape will keep it in place and keep it from moving up and down the bars and scratching. Just get one started slightly, and that will enable you to get the other one going easier. Make sure that you don't strip these. They're not the easiest boogers to put on, and you certainly don't want to strip them. Okay, just lightly snug it, and you do want the gaps to be even. I don't think it's critical really, but it looks better. Now Luis is going to try to balance or make the bar level as possible, and then he will secure his side. Again, make sure that you don't cross thread them. Take your time.
Get it off.
Now Luis, we're even looking more like a quad. This is great. It's looking good. Next is the seat.
I'm going to do the seat now.
Okay. The next thing that we're going to do is install the aluminum. You're going to use the medium size bolt with a washer. And here's the key. Everybody wonders where these little puppies go. They're vibration isolators. And they're going to go on top of the quad frame, the painted frame itself, and underneath the aluminum. You do not need a washer on the bottom, just on the top. Medium bolt, vibration isolator on the frame, aluminum with the washer through it. Do not, I repeat, do not tighten these very much. If you squish the rubber, half your vibration isolation is gone. As I mentioned, you don't want to tighten this very much, but you do want to tighten it now before you get the seat on. Just enough to make it snug. It can move a little bit. How's that look, Luis?
Good.
Yeah.
Come on. That's too much.
Add too much. There we go. Perfect. Luis will install the other side, and next we'll get the seat on. We are really getting close to the end here. We're going to install the seat and the seat belt, and then I'll quickly show you how to put the A-assist on as well. There is a video, a separate video on our YouTube Tips and Tricks channel that shows you how to install the A-assists. Make sure that your aluminum angle iron is installed just like this, because the metal underneath the seat slides right over this. You notice that's a really good fit, and you can slide the seat fore and aft. Now's the time to get in it. Put your feet up on the steering, steer the quad, and see if you're comfortable. A lot of guys have short legs, a lot of guys have long legs. Some guys like to be a long ways from the steering wheel, some people like to be close to the steering wheel. Now's the time to figure out what works for you. Next, drill the holes and install 2 of these bolts on each side with washers. Okay, Luis, let's go ahead and install the seat belts. The female portion of the buckle, the portion that I have here, is on the right side of the aircraft. The seat belts are completely adjustable for size. I like to hold my buckle nice and tight, that way it's not moving around. Please note that the buckle is aft of the bolt. We go through the center portion of the seat. That way these straps don't fall off your shoulders. Do not put them here or here. Install it in the center. I personally don't use my shoulder straps. I like to be able to lean forward and look around. I want to know where people are flying around me. Also, on inflation, you want to know where your glider is. I like to be able to lean forward and look up and see my glider. If you feel more comfortable with these on, perhaps think about making them a little bit looser so you do have a little bit of mobility. You're not sucked into the back of your seat. Once I've installed this buckle here and I've adjusted it to fit my size, I like to kind of roll it up a little bit like so. And I'll put a zip tie across it. It looks nice and neat, and it keeps it from flopping around on the ground. Fold it up. Put the tail on the inside like so, and put a zip tie. Okay, the seat belt has 2 different buckles on it, and Luis is taking it upon himself to make a little bit of an adjustment that I actually think is a good adjustment. He's taking one of these buckles off. Notice there's a lot of strapping material here. That's just the way they come, and we're going to cut them and make them shorter. Luis, demonstrate what you're using with just the one buckle, or how you're applying this with just one buckle. What he's doing is he's getting your shoulder straps somewhat adjusted so that he's not having to adjust the buckle too much due to the extra length that we have. So I see what you're doing there. You're putting both straps through one buckle.
That's right.
And that way we're going to have one tight location directly behind the pilot's neck. Very good. We're just going to go ahead and cut it off right now, just a little bit, and that enables Luis to not have to fight with getting this thicker portion of the strap through the buckle. Luis just finished adjusting the seat belt, It's a guesstimate, so you have to sit in it first and see if that works for you. So let's give it a try. In the middle, nice guess. Inch or so of slack. Shoulder straps with their cool BlackHawk logos. I'm going to tighten them down a little bit right there. I would suggest that about this much slack is really where you want to be if you want to be able to see your glider when you launch. You don't want to be sucked back against the seat. This actually feels pretty good. Me, I just leave them connected, and I can actually look all the way back behind my cage and see if anybody is there. Remember, you always look before you turn as well. That feels pretty good. I adjusted the seat a little bit to see where I think it might work well for me. And this seems to work very well. I'm going to slide it up a little bit more just to see if I like it right here. I actually like that a little bit better. So I'm a little ways forward. Feels really, really good. So now we'll mark the seat, drill the seat, install the bolts, put the A-assists on, and this puppy is ready for the engine and cage to be mounted. The BlackHawk LowBoy Quad is now completed. Luis has tightened down all the bolts and nuts. He's installed the A-assist and the hang points. So we're done. The next video that we do in this series will be how to install the cage properly, get the proper angle on the cage, and then we'll also show you how to adjust your CG. From Mike Robinson, Luis Herrera, and the rest of us at BlackHawk Paramotor USA, we'd like to thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions or suggestions, please contact us either by email or phone number. Thank you.